Hey, Real Talk Real Estate here with a tariff update for you. Big news in the world of tariffs today. Many of you were out there working, slaving away at that 9 to 5 in the coal mine, hard at work. You're now getting home. You're like, hey, what was going on in the world? Let me see. What's David Greene up to? What's he got for me? Well, I do have something for you. First off, I've got some gratitude. If you were one of those people that are working out there, slaving away at your 9 to 5, working that W-2, doing the things that we need to keep this world turning and this country great, thank you. If no one has told you that today, thank you. If you're one of those people that is up there hanging steel, framing houses, cleaning things that nobody else sees or appreciates, thank you. It's not fair that our culture tends to glamorize famous people, YouTubers, internet celebrities, white collar wannabes. Not that there's anything wrong with white collar workers, but we definitely put them on a pedestal. But it's the blue collar folks that keep this world turning. So if nobody's told you today, thank you. Now, hopefully I've saved you a little bit of time, because I go through my day and I look at relevant real estate news, economic news, housing news, and I put stuff together. I try to figure out what is important. I try to get a feel for what's going on. I bring it to you. And that's what we got today. Got a tariff update. Really big news in the world of tariffs right now. It's going to fly in the face of what you've been hearing if you've been listening to mainstream media. I haven't heard any of them talk about what happened today. It's pretty big. So without any more ado, let's get into the first video. Brandon Turner used to say that all the time, without further ado. And now it's in my head. I'm like stuck there.
All right, we're going to come back and hit you with some tariff updates because news is breaking. The first one I know of is Trump has just said, effective immediately, the tariffs on China move from 104%. Larry, I think he's trying to make you happy, up to 125%. So let's talk about that. Do we have the other? Okay, we got another one too. I'm just going to keep giving them to you.
Yeah, here's the whole.
And Dagan, I'm going to turn over to you.
No, you go, because there's even bigger news.
He's authorized a 90-day pause on tariffs that applies to reciprocal and the 10% tariff, a 90-day pause effective immediately. Look at the straight shoot up line on your screen. Markets desperate for this news, and they got it.
For all countries?
I have authorized a 90-day pause and a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%, also effective immediately. You want me to read it, Larry?
Yes, please.
So 125% tariff on China because...
Is it not hilarious that even newscast anchors are looking at their phones to get information? I was watching the Megyn Kelly podcast the other day, and she's reading off of her phone on the show. Like, remember when they used to have papers and they'd like shuffle it and they'd have their tie on and they would sit like this? In fact, I think the thumbnail for this video has me doing the same thing. And now they're reading off their phones on live TV, and I'm recording in a t-shirt.
We crush you. How about that? Those were my words.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm getting down to no monetary. These countries.
5.5%.
Is the pause for all countries?
At my suggestion, it just says I have authorized a 90-day pause and a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%.
Right.
Effective immediately.
These, as I said, these tariffs, by the way, are unsustainable anyway. So this is a reality check, but it's very, very good. How's the market must be doing?
It's on a tear. Yeah, so the Dow is up 3.5%. The NASDAQ is up 4.9%. The S&P 500 is up 4%. The Russell 2000 is up 3.6%. The NASDAQ 100, 5.3%. VIX falls to 40. Traders pare back all of their bets on Fed rate cuts.
It's the 90-day pause.
Based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called the trade rep, commerce, treasury, and to negotiate a solution to the subjects being discussed relative to all the trade and trade barriers, non-tariff. These countries have not at my strong suggestion, retaliated in any way, shape, or form against the United States to those 75 countries.
Oh, fabulous.
That's the way it sounds. I have authorized a 90-day pause.
He's giving them a 90-day pause.
So, that's the way it reads.
And then he just ratcheted up China. So you got to imagine China's not on that list.
Right.
So
I would. This is so good because 70 countries coming in. You're going to make deals, but it's going to take time, resources. Okay. So he's pausing the whole process in order to make a deal. This is so good. And he's lowering these reciprocal tariff charges, which were way too high to begin with because they were based on trade deficits, made no sense whatsoever. So this is like a home run. This is, if I may, this is common sense Donald Trump.
And the market.
Common sense businessman Donald Trump.
The market rallied on this rumor, mistakenly reported on Monday, the same way it's rallying now. But on Sunday night, traders were telling me that that's what the market wanted. This was you couldn't have given them a bigger gift.
This is phenomenal.
I have a serious question,
phenomenal.
Larry.
This is off the charts good. This is the most brilliant thing. He's such a realist. He's got, if I was in the Oval 100 times over 3 years, every time I was in, he'd ask me, what's the market doing?
Yeah.
I know the market said, no, you got them too much, too soon, too fast, etc. So he listened, and he's getting advice from a lot of people, not going to name any names, about how to play this card. And he's got Bassett in charge of deals, and it'll all take. This is just wonderful. This is Trump at his best.
So 90-day pause, and then the reciprocal tariffs go down to 10% for these 75 nations that have not retaliated against the United States. But I wrote this down on my little folder that you said this was weeks and weeks ago. And I would bet you, and you can tell me I'm crazy, that POTUS and Scott Bessent like to watch the 10-year Treasury and the 10-year rate, the yield.
Yields are holding steady.
I wonder, given what happened with the 10-year yield and the 30-year, the long bond overnight, if that wasn't at least some impetus to, again, this is a door opening. This is a way forward for the United States and our trading partners who we stand strong with.
This is good management
Yes.
of policy. This is good execution of policy. It shows his flexibility. It shows his common sense. He's adapting to the reality. Okay, look, you had stock market vigilantes.
Larry really, really likes Donald Trump, if you guys weren't picking up on that.
You had bond market vigilantes saying, with this tariff thing, it's way too big, way too soon, way too far. Okay?
Yeah.
He is right. I will back him on the crusade or the policy goal of stopping the unfair trading practices that have existed.
All right. So President Trump has put a pause for 90 days on the tariffs that we said we were going to do, except for China. And in future videos on this video here, we're going to talk about why he did that and what he said, which was pretty bold.
Now for decades. He is correct. His idea of reciprocity, which should lead to freer trade and lower tariffs over time, is exactly correct. It's just terrific stuff.
Dow's up almost 6%.
Now he's adjusting, right? I mean, this is so
well,
joyful.
When we have a good problem, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we always talk about halting trading for 15 minutes when you hit a limit down of 7%. I believe that also applies to the upside of 7%. We're not there yet, but you have an S&P up 6.7%.
And what would the?
I thought the first limit up is 7, and then 13, and then 20. I know that to the downside. I think it also applies to the upside. We'll see. The S&P 500 right now is up 7%.
Okay, so
the NASDAQ is up 8.7% on the day.
You're out jockeying my bid to cover.
I know. See?
If you have the upper bounds, for the interventions, that's even better than bid to cover.
There are no circuit breakers on the upside.
On the upside, good.
There are no circuit breakers
so let her
on the
rip.
downside.
Just let her rip.
Wow. Wow.
Okay, so Larry, I'm trying to interpret what's happening here. This is a huge policy change relative to what we were hearing like 5 days ago.
Not a policy.
Let me finish, okay?
All right.
I got to ask a question.
He did it. I didn't. I'm not the one. Thank Jesus.
So my point is,
up 9%.
Larry, my point is, we've been hinting at this. This to me looks like confirmation of a sea change in terms of who has priority in the White House on advising on the path forward with tariffs and taxes and policy, Larry. Am I directionally correct on that?
Yes. I wouldn't, however, and I didn't mean to interrupt, honestly.
Happens all the time.
Look, Jackie told me to pipe down the
did,
other
I'm
time.
sorry.
I was fine with it. No, it's okay. You got to
I
whip
was
me in the
kidding.
shape. I love this group, everyone on this table. So look, the policy remains the same. What's changing is the execution of the policy. Okay, that's how I would interpret it.
Okay.
Now, your point about bond.
No, my point, I'm saying Bessent is driving. He's got the wheel, and the other guys are in the back seat at best.
Bessent is,
putting it mildly.
One of Bessent's terrific value adds, okay, is his knowledge of markets and market strategies and market developments. Okay, he's the link to the markets, as a good Treasury Secretary should be. Incidentally, we had Steve Mnuchin in Treasury. It was the same thing. I had because of my background, but it's what a good Treasury Secretary should do.
Right.
And he's reporting to Trump. Here's the thing. A news report Sunday, over the weekend, Scott Bessent flew down to Florida in order to get on Air Force One and come back to Washington with Trump. And they had a conversation about the markets and, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All right. And so what happens subsequently after this plane ride, right? Bessent is put in charge of the deal making. And now this is earth shaking news. The 90-day pause, is that what it is?
Yes.
Can I ask you a question on that 90-day pause?
This has Bessent written all over it. Yes, please.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, some part of me wonders if a 90-day pause, I think it is good. Clearly the market's responding. But if I'm a business leader, I'm now trying to figure out not what I'm doing today, but now what my world looks like 90 days from now. Does that not delay some of the uncertainty, or is this confirmation that we can get deals done in 90 days? Was it Jamie Dimon or Scott Bessent was one that says these are 1,000 pages. We need months to get these deals done. If I'm a business leader and I'm trying to figure out if I'm hiring, firing, building or not, spending CapEx or not, what do I now do for the next 90 days?
Well, that's a super good question. I would look at it this way. Business people have to seize opportunities in whatever markets they're operating. So they're going to make a bet. I think some people might bet on a retreat. Other people said, no, wait a second. They're pausing to make deals, to make this much more manageable.
Right.
Most people believe that we should fight back on unfair trading practices. It's just that this was too much. Okay. Wow. Now this is being pared down.
But this got them to the table.
Well, yes, it did, as a matter of fact. Yes, that's important. Part of Trump's negotiating skills. Bash him and then bring them to the table. That's what you do in the real estate business in New York. You kick them in the teeth, and then after this, they're done with the surgery.
Okay, so as we're getting commentary here, it's starting to become clear what anyone that could read between the lines thought could happen, but most people were not saying would happen. President Trump put out very heavy and serious tariffs on every other nation. He gave a deadline. He said it's going to happen. Many people were critical of the way he messaged that. They thought that he should be like, hey, you know what, guys, let's play nice. Just come talk to me. He didn't want to do that. He understands, or at least his perspective on the world, is that many of these other countries will get away with as much as you let them get away with. And so if he came in nice, that they would come in thinking, hey, there's some weakness here. Let's see what we can take advantage of. If you come in strong, they're more likely to come to you. And once they come to you, then you can be nice. I think that's kind of obvious if you understand his personality and you understand the personalities of other world leaders. Maybe not the case in UK. I don't think that the Brits are approaching things like that, but Putin sure is. China sure is. A lot of these other, like Iraq is sure thinking that way. And so he talks this way, not because he's speaking to the American public. A lot of people get offended by that. They don't like that President Trump speaks so boldly and directly and divisively, because you wouldn't want him speaking to you that way. You wouldn't want him speaking to a 6-year-old that way. But to these world leaders, many of them that are malevolent leaders, they understand strength. And he brought strength. And now we see they came back, and what happened? He's like, hey, maybe we don't have to do this. Let's talk about it. All right, that was our first video. And the next one is going to be a little bit more along the same lines. So let's dig in.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Charles Payne. This is Making Money. Just moments ago, President Trump announced a 90-day pause. And let's get right to it. Joining me now, Trump's top trade advisor, Peter Navarro. Peter, okay, so we've got 90-day pause. We've got the post from Truth Social behind me, essentially isolating China. The tariffs are going to go higher, but you've got a 90-day pause. We just heard from Scott Bessent. 75 plus countries are trying to negotiate. Walk us through how this decision was made.
Charles, this is one of the greatest days in American economic history we have had. I think we're going to call it the art of the reciprocal trade deal. And I'll tell you, all the nervous Nellies on Wall Street who try to undermine us consistently underestimate the power of the president to negotiate. What have we got here? We are at a place now where we have a broad-based 10% global tariff on. Well, we negotiate over the next 90 days with all of these countries who have come to us. And the mission, Charles, in these negotiations is to dramatically reduce our trade deficit, level the playing field, get rid of all the tariff differentials, get rid of all the non-tariff barriers. Dow 50,000, Charles. I've said this before. It's going to hit that. We're going to have a broad-based recovery in the S&P 500.
Peter,
We're going to pass
let me
a
jump
tax cut
in for a second.
and get us.
Let me jump in
no
for a
recession.
second because you talked about the nervous Nellies on Wall Street, and by the way, I'm in that camp as well. I wasn't nervous, but I understand. But you understand how people felt and all the anxiety and all of the negative news stories. But some are saying it's the market, particularly the bond market, that pushed the White House into this move.
Oh no! We had a great bonds market selling today, and everything was fine with that. The yields looked beautifully. We had broad-based participation in that, and it's trust in Trump. I mean, look, this was done in a beautiful negotiation. We put out there a set of reciprocal tariffs that reflect the crushing trade deficits that we have with these countries. Yeah, I said at the beginning, no negotiation. It's not that. It's a national emergency, but we.
This 10-year treasury yield is really important. You see that it's up. This is why interest rates went up after they went down. If you don't want to get caught up in the minutia of this, that's okay. Most of you are going to be real estate investors. What you need to understand is that in general, when the 10-year treasury goes down, mortgage rates on your house goes down. When the 10-year treasury goes up, mortgage rates on your house go up. It's also worth noting that President Trump cannot control interest rates for mortgages. He can't control interest rates for the Fed either. Jerome Powell does that, and it's no surprise the two of them have locked horns a little bit over that, or butted heads, whichever animal analogy you prefer there. And so this is why when the 90-day pause on tariffs came out, the market said, "Ooh, this is great. This is going to be good for business. It may not be bad." And then they flooded back into the stock market, which brought money out of bonds and into stocks. And as money left bonds went up because you have to draw more of a higher interest rate. You have to create more demand to buy them, which made interest rates for mortgages go up as well.
We will listen. And what we heard immediately was beautiful. These countries want to come to us, lower not just their tariffs, but their non-tariff barriers. And as Scott Bessent said just a few moments ago, there's other things that are going to be on the table that are going to help us reduce our debt, reduce our deficits, things like LNG plants in Alaska. So we're going to see a wave of investment here. They're going to invest here. We're going to see them lowering their trade barriers. And here's the thing. There's a beautiful analogy President Trump likes to use. It's like each country, it's not going to be like a suit off the rack, right? It's not one size fits all. It's going to be every deal is going to be tailor made.
Right.
And we got 90 days to do this. I'm telling you, Charles, this is going to be the biggest boom. And let's not forget, this tariff strategy is embedded in this beautiful, huge other sets of strategies. The tax cut, if the Congress gets that done by August, then this idea that there'll ever be a recession is just silly. I mean, the tax cuts, broadest based, just beautiful tax cuts for the middle class. That alone will help us. And then we've got the oil prices going down. We've got the bond market behaving well now. So it's unfolded exactly the way it should. It's a beautiful thing. And my hat,
but let me just
if I had one, is off to President Trump.
Let me jump in for a second because I want to get the focus on China. Now, when the reciprocal barriers were put out there, a lot of people were curious, like, why such high numbers for Laos and these other countries? To me, it felt like you guys are forming an economic blockade around China so that they couldn't cheat on any potential deals out there. So there's no doubt you're singly focusing on China, and also the notion that somehow they've lost, right? Yesterday, South Korea, even though on Friday we saw the South Korean minister locking arms with China and Japan, they said no, they've rejected China. Is this a wholesale rejection of the rest of the world of China in this negotiation?
Charles, what we saw from the rest of the world ex-China was a willingness, in fact, an eagerness to talk to us in a recognition that they'd been cheating us for years. And they're the ones who cooperate. China has chosen their path. They chose not to negotiate at all with President Donald John Trump. And so we are in this situation. And China.
All right, my take on this part here, saying that China chose not to participate. Let me try to read between the lines for everybody. And again, this is subjective. I can't prove this, but this is the way I understand it. And I want to share it with you. We were hoping that China would come negotiate with us to make a deal that makes more sense for America. China doesn't like that and has a lot of pride. They see us as a rival. They don't want to come give in and make it look to their own people like they're not strong and Trump is bullying them. So China doesn't come to the negotiation table like I think 75 other countries have. But China is the country that has the most at stake here, if you're following what's going on. So they will be affected by tariffs a lot, and we will be affected by this a lot if China doesn't come negotiate. When you hear commentary like this, I understand that to be, this is a person that wants America to get a better deal or wants to be on Trump's good side. And so he's giving this commentary in the hopes that everybody gets mad at China and goes, well, we told them that they should come negotiate and they retaliated. It's their fault. They're raising the stakes. But in China, if you watch the media, it's going to be all Donald Trump is horrible. He's trying to make the Chinese starve to death. He's always hated the Chinese. He blamed us for the virus. And this is his attempt to try to get back at us. He's trying to take away Chinese jobs. And unfortunately, this is what it's like when you watch the news, is you don't just get the information, you get the information and then someone telling you how to interpret it. So I'm sure in China, these tariffs are being looked at like it's a personal attack because of racism or anger or something negative. In America, we're seeing a completely different perspective. We're being told that the Chinese are stubborn and prideful and stupid, and that's why they didn't come negotiate when everyone else did.
We got the biggest trade deficit with them. They, of all the cheating they do the most comprehensive set. I called it the 7 deadly sins in the first term. It's up to about the 10 deadly sins now. But here's the thing. We got 90 days, and in a very methodical way, we're going to have countries come in. And the previous show where they're talking about best of this, Ludnick that, and like as if there's a riff, we are all on the same page. And it comes from the president. You've got Scotty, you've got Howard, you got Jameson Greer, you got Kevin Hassett, you got the vice president, J.D. Vance, making a beautiful contribution on this. And we're all doing our job for the president. And this is the result. I mean, the tail of the tape today tells you everything.
Peter,
that
I
all
gotta
you
admit,
nervous
though,
Nellies on Wall Street were too nervous. You got to trust in Trump.
I got to admit, though,
Trump.
Peter, that on Friday, I put out a post on X, and I was saying, okay, you know, the economy's markets, you need three things. Movement on the big, beautiful tax bill that you just talked about. We'd like to hear some deals, you know, that are coming on. And then I said, you know, more Besant, right? Because it felt like he was more of the architect. And then, of course, the Donnybrook that you've had with Elon Musk. Is today in some way a repudiation of you? Are you taking a back seat and Besant now in the driver's seat?
As I just said, it's the whole team. I mean, we work together beautifully. I mean, Scotty's one of my best friends. We've known each other for years now.
I'm not disputing that you're friends, but I'm just saying with respect to messaging, because yesterday or the day before, you talked about going after these deficits in a way that scared the market. Everyone says, okay, let's get a fair, level playing field, but it felt like you wanted to go further.
Well, I mean, look, no, not at all. No, look, Bannon said this once during the first term. I'm the default strategy. In a way, if they don't want to cooperate, then they get tariffs. Okay, if they cooperate, we talk to them. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. And I'm telling you, look, Charles, if you went behind the scenes and actually sat in on some of these meetings, we got really smart people. Each has their own comparative advantage. We all get along. We all have great ideas.
There's no disputing that.
And the president is the one who guides this whole thing.
And you and I have been friends for a decade, and we've had some Donnybrooks on the air over that time. But the fact of the matter is that it felt like in many ways you and also Letnick were mucking up the public relations aspect of this.
Come on, Charles.
All right.
Don't read everything you read. Believe everything you read in the fake news. I mean,
well, the bottom line is you've got momentum. The White House has momentum. President Trump is looking brilliant right now. And again, I thought, you know, him starting so high with tariff levels that no one had thought was possible. No one gamed for. 75 countries coming to the table. We got 90 days out there. How soon before we start to hear some of these deals? It sounds like South Korea is close. It sounds like Japan is close.
We're getting folks coming in real time. We've already had people come in real time. We're working on things. So this is going to move fast and beautifully. And one thing I want to say, Charles, of all the stories that everybody reads out there about dissension in the ranks or this, that, and the other thing, have you ever read any story that wasn't based on anonymous sources?
It wasn't the stories. I saw some of the interviews, though, Peter, and it did feel like you were a little bit off. Listen, I know your role. You're the guy who's written all these books against China. You saw the threat before most people on Wall Street, but also you're not the soft guy. You're a tough dude, and you've gone in there in ways that maybe is great, but at times during the negotiating process might have thrown things off, might not have been on message. That's all I was saying. But the bottom line is this is a great moment for the country, and it's a great moment for the White House right now.
It's absolutely, and all I've ever said is this is not a negotiation. It's a national emergency.
Right.
The president will talk to anybody, and then we love what we've heard. It's all consistent.
The news is consistent.
It is a national emergency.
It is a national emergency, and
let's not lose sight of that.
You've done a great job, Peter.
$1.2 trillion.
You've done a great job. Bottom line, and it's good to see everyone, all hands on deck, and we like all the green we're seeing on the screen right now. Talk to you again real soon, my friend. Thank you.
One band, one sound, my brother.
All right.
Good to talk.
All right. So what's up with this national emergency talk? Well, my take on this is a lot of people are going to be unhappy with this. And whether this is coming directly from Trump or whether the people like the gentleman we just heard are speaking for him, they want to prep us for the fact that the economy is going to likely slow down in the near future. And by framing it as a national emergency, you will accept something that doesn't feel good or is not in your best interest if you believe that it's for a good reason, like a national emergency. If it wasn't that, a lot of people would be more unhappy with this, and the tariff talks would be less popular. And so I think that a lot of that is spin, that they're trying to put a narrative together to make people excited for what's going on. And I think that they get some fair criticism about that. Like, you don't need to talk to us like we're stupid. You can just say, yeah, it's going to be hard. Prices are going to go up. This is going to affect a lot of people. We're sorry. I wish that that's a little bit more of the messaging that we got. Hey, like, this is going to hurt. We're genuinely sorry. We are hoping that it will be better in the long run, but for now, this is going to be tough. A lot of people would probably appreciate that, especially based on a lot of the comments I'm seeing in the chat about people that are going to be affected by this happening. All right, our next video actually comes from Sky News.
Donald Trump is not bluffing about tariffs. As most of the world scrambles to book a meeting with the president to negotiate a trade deal, China is only escalating tensions with the United States.
As you know, against my statement, they put a 34% tariff on above what their ridiculous tariffs were already. And I said, if that tariff isn't removed by tomorrow at 12 o'clock, we're putting a 50% tariff on above the tariffs that we put on. So they've gone for years. They've become a rich country because of people, again, that were in the White House that allowed this to happen.
And true to his word, Donald Trump slapped a further tariff on China in a bid to level out the playing field.
About tariffs.
Look, I just spoke to the president about this, and he believes that China wants to make a deal with the United States. He believes China has to make a deal with the United States. It was a mistake for China to retaliate. The president, when America is punched, he punches back harder. That's why there will be 104% tariffs going into effect on China tonight at midnight. But the president believes that she and China want to make a deal. They just don't know how to get that started. And the president also wanted me to tell all of you that if China reaches out to make a deal, he'll be incredibly gracious, but he's going to do what's best for the American people.
So China has to call first?
The Chinese want to make a deal. They just don't know how to do it. But the president will be implementing these 104% tariffs on China tonight.
He doubled down at a Republican function just hours ago, saying China will not be getting away with any more abuse under his leadership.
What other presidents allow China to get away with is absolutely criminal, but I'm not like the other presidents, and it's not going to happen under President Trump. It's just not going to happen. After all of the abuses they've perpetrated, China's attempting to impose additional unjustified tariffs. Just so you understand, they all got rich because of tariffs. You know, now when we do it, oh, it's so terrible what Trump is doing. It's so terrible. They got rich. And not only China, many countries. I mean, you look at Vietnam, you look at so many, I could name 50 right now. Biden couldn't do that. He couldn't name any. Name one country. Name any country. What's the name of our country? He doesn't know. That's why additional tariffs on Chinese goods are in place effective midnight tonight at 104%. Until they make a deal with us, that's what it's going to be. I think they'll make a deal at some point. China will. They want to make a deal. They really do. They want to make a deal. They just don't know how to get it started because they're proud people. China will now pay a big number to our treasury. This is all taxes. And don't let them keep telling you that this is a tax on our people. I hate that. You know, they say it's a tax. No, often much of it is paid. And hey, look what happened during my first term. We had no inflation.
And
all right, let's cover this before we continue with the video and then get to some of the questions that we have in the comments and some of the comments that I think are really good. It is often called a tax on the consumer, but that's because it practically ends up that way. Meaning, if you increase the taxes on the company that's importing the foreign goods, their profit margin goes down because their expenses went up. So in order to compensate for the increased expenses, then they increase their price. But here's where it gets tricky. If a company increases their price more than people want to pay, somebody buys from their competition. And if their competition's an American-made company that isn't having the tariffs put on them, it gives an advantage to the companies that are buying their products from America. Well, if you're going to buy your products from America, somebody in America has to make them, and that is the underlying motive of what is going on. It is not to hurt the people of America. It is to create an atmosphere where there is pressure on people and companies to build manufacturing plants here and give jobs to the American worker. Now, there is a comment that came in here from Gabe that says, yeah, but this was unnecessary. We had a great economy in the past 4 years. Tariffs did not work in 1929 and won't do magic today either. On paper, it looks okay, but imagine if we had just continued. I think that's debatable. I don't think that it's we had a great economy last 4 years. I think that many, many, many intelligent people have stated we slipped into a silent recession and the previous administration was fudging the numbers to hide this. I've heard this spoken by a lot of different people, that there was like government jobs that were created that was paid for by American tax dollars. It made it look like the GDP was higher than it really was. That you were getting stories of $90 waste paper baskets and $120 toasters that were being bought from money that was just thrown around everywhere to make it look like we were wealthier than we are. We also have the problem that we just kept printing money and sending it to other countries to buy their things, but the dollar was being eroded. We are not, and we're not in a healthy economy where we are producing a lot of stuff. I believe I've heard Scott Bessick refer to it as we were kind of like a nation on steroids. Did we look good on the outside? Yeah, we had these huge muscles and everyone would say we're healthy. But inwardly, our organs were deteriorating. We were dying. This was not going to last. And if we had waited for it to collapse and then done something, I think this would be a lot more popular, if we're just being frank here. I think a lot of people would have been on board with these changes that were being made if we had waited for the economy to collapse, go into a complete depression, and then it would be so much hard when the plane is almost crashing to pull it back up. It was on the way down. If you don't see it that way, maybe you would disagree with me. And you probably don't see it that way a lot of the time because we're not feeling the effects. You're on steroids. You feel healthy. You feel great. You're doing really good. By the way, I know many of you are asking the question, David, are you on steroids? Because you're looking different. The answer is no, I'm not looking different. I've just been in the gym a lot, and I actually got some really good lighting in my new studio here, which appears to have the presence of steroids, but no, not even close. Now, Brandon Turner, on the other hand, you got to watch that guy. He might actually be on steroids. He used to look like Gumby, and now he looks like Stretch Armstrong. So go check out Beardy Brandon and let me know what you think. Anyways, I don't know that we were in as good of a position as people think. I actually think myself that we are in an incredibly scary position, and I'm not going to tell everybody that you need to be happy about tariffs, but something needed to be done, and this was the thing that is being done. Johnny says, if we pay Americans to make cheap stuff, that stuff will no longer be cheap. That's a guarantee. I don't think we should make cheap stuff. I think we should make good stuff. Frankly, I would love to get back to Americans making better cars than Japan. I want to see pressure put on our companies to do better. I want to see, if you're asking me, for us to move away from the value system and mindset of we are entitled and we need free or cheap stuff. We need the government to pay for things. We need free this and free that, because free always ends up as cheap. When you get free healthcare, you get bad healthcare. When you get free education, you get crappy education. We were at the point, and kind of still are, where you could go to college, borrow a whole bunch of money, get yourself into massive debt, go to school when you're 18 years old and don't really understand how money or the world works, dig yourself an incredibly big hole that you're going to be trying to get out of your whole life, learn something that's largely useless. Not everyone did that, but a lot of people went to college and got degrees that were pointless, thought that this was normal. This was just the regular path every American was taking. Graduated, couldn't get a good job, didn't have any value to offer because you didn't learn anything useful. But all that debt went to pay all the salaries of the people that were in that college that made it look like our economy is doing better than it was. It was terrible. It was plastic. It doesn't mean every part of America was bad, but a lot of what was going on was not sustainable, was not wise, and would have collapsed. And that, if you can understand that, you can understand why not every American is mad about it. Some people are. I don't think everyone's happy. I don't think anyone's like, man, I hope gas prices go up. Man, I hope that the price of my stuff goes up. They just understand that this is a trade-off. Baba says, it seems like they should have started investing in American companies and incentivizing them to move industry back here before adding tariffs. Maybe they did, but this is a way more hurtful way. Yeah, that's a solid point. I imagine that Trump would have probably preferred if Biden would have done that when he was in office, but Trump probably feels like he's only got 4 years. You got to think about that. If he was going to be a president for the next 8 years or 12 years, maybe that is what he would have done. Maybe that's exactly what we'd be doing, is this would get rolled out slowly to take the sting away. But this is like, hey, you just joined the military and you're going to war in 4 months. We got to get you ready. You're thrown into the mix. There is a very painful process here. This is going to be hard, but we got to get you prepared. We're at a breakneck pace right now to try to get things turned around in a 4-year period of time. And who knows how long we have before the next outbreak happens? Who knows how long we have before the next virus is going around and shutting down workers? Like, we can't assume that everything is always going to be easy. The sense of urgency, I think, in some cases could be healthy. All right, let's get back to the video.
And in response to the mammoth tariff, China hit back with a very bizarre boycott. Chinese media are reporting that they will ban American films, which elicited a hilarious response from American commentators. This person said, "China is banning Hollywood films as a result of the tariffs. If only I cared. Hollywood is morally bankrupt and will soon be financially bankrupt. Couldn't happen to a better group of people." But some are taking the move more seriously, noting the substantial revenue that flows into Hollywood from China. This commentator said, "Recent data shows Hollywood films generated more box office revenue in China than in the US, highlighting their significant profitability in the market." This commentator,
I'll admit, I didn't see this coming. Never did it occur to me. I was kind of thinking like, well, what is China going to do to retaliate on us? Like, what are they going to put a tariff on? I don't picture a whole lot of Chinese people driving Chevrolets. I thought maybe like Jordan shoes or maybe some American fancy clothing brands, right? The designer labels, maybe the wealthy Chinese, but they can afford the tariffs. They're not going to care. This is a solid point. A lot of people don't understand how many human beings live in China, and they tend to think Americans are cool. So they like our movies and they like our sports. There's a significant amount of movies that are produced where the producers don't want the Chinese person to be the villain because they want it to sell in China. So they end up having Russians as villains because there's not as many Russians that watch our content. They're just not as fascinated with us as some of the Chinese are, right? I've also heard that like the NBA will tend to err towards being favorable to China, even when they're doing things that are politically unpopular in America. So the situation like the Uyghurs, some of the working conditions that they put people in, when they push things too far, you won't see a lot of big American corporations or conglomerations take a stand because they know a lot of people in China watch basketball, a lot of them watch baseball, a lot of them watch football. So those leagues try to stay neutral. And that is an area where I think the Chinese are thinking that they could hurt us.
agreed, saying China to ban Hollywood films in retaliation for Trump tariffs. $500 million in US box office at risk. And whilst the Democrats are criticizing the Trump administration for their courageous tariffs, it seems as though they do actually agree with him. Resurfaced footage of Chuck Schumer passionately advocating for a 27.5% tariff on China in 2005 sounds remarkably similar to the point Trump has been making.
It says to the Chinese, enough already. It says to the Chinese that their unfair trade policies have got to end. It says to the Chinese, this is a shot across your bow. Reform, because if you don't, there are going to be dramatic consequences throughout the world, in our country, and in your country as well. The bottom line is very simple, Mr. President. The Chinese have enjoyed a huge trade surplus with the United States, as this chart shows. Every year, it gets larger and larger and larger.
And if we go further back, Nancy Pelosi echoed the same criticism against China in 1996.
How far does China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit and loss of jobs for the American worker? And how much more dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, I will not endorse the status quo?
Nancy Pelosi with pearls ready to be clutched at any minute here, anti the situation we have right now. And this makes all of us have to ask ourselves, how many of the opinions that we're hearing about this administration are neutral and objective based on the facts, and how many of them are tainted by your love or your hatred for the person making them? Don't fall into that trap.
As I mentioned, it's about jobs, proliferation, and human rights. And there are those who say we shouldn't link human rights and trade and proliferation and trade. I disagree. But if we just want to take up this issue on the basis of economics alone, indeed, China should not receive most favored nation status.
And in 2012, Barack Obama took a similar hardline stance against China.
We had a tire case in which they were flooding us with cheap domestic tires or cheap Chinese tires. And we put a stop to it. And as a consequence, saved jobs throughout America. I have to say that Governor Romney criticized me for being too tough in that tire case. Said this wouldn't be good for American workers and that it would be protectionist. But I tell you, those workers don't feel that way.
But of course, when Trump does it, the Democrats lose their minds.
But this newfound hatred of tariffs from the left stands in stark opposition to what Democrats were saying in the past.
All right. That was not an American news channel. That was Australia giving their take on what's going on. We have some interesting comments here. Get to before the video started there on its own. Sorry. Encore says the man is not a strong person. He's weak. And now the entire world knows if they put pressure on him, he will capitulate and back down. Not a strong leader, just a fool. Goes on to say it's a failure of policy and leadership, and the world is watching. I'm trying to see where you're getting your perspective there from, Encore. It didn't look weak that he said we're doing tariffs unless everyone comes to negotiate. And then when they came to negotiate, he was nice. He's like, okay, we'll hold off. We'll give 90 days to let us negotiate. I don't think that shows weakness. I think that it would be weak if we took it off of China because they didn't come. I think it's consistent. We told all the countries, don't retaliate. We want you to come negotiate with us before this goes into effect. But if you don't, here's the deadline. The ones that wanted to play ball are playing ball. The ones that didn't are getting the tariff. But maybe I'm missing something. Let me know in the comments, everybody, if you're watching this, why I'm missing it. And please don't just say, I hate Donald Trump or I love Donald Trump. Let me know the facts of your case. Blessed says, hola, pues hola a ti. All right. Our next video is from Victor Davis Hanson.
Hello, this is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal. Speaking on a Monday that the market's gone down 300 points.
Question before we get into this. Who here thinks that when I get older, I'm going to look like Victor David Hanson?
It's about where we were 2 years ago, January of 2023. Remember, the market in the last two administrations, 8 years, has doubled in value. So it's not like this big collapse. But more importantly, is this panic we're watching on Wall Street based on hard data or evidence or experience? What do I mean by that? First term, Donald Trump, was he an enemy of Wall Street? Is there a better alternative? Did he crash the market? No, the market grew 65% under Donald Trump. He basically repealed what Wall Street hated most, the Dodd-Frank Oversight Act. He deregulated. He cut taxes. He simplified. He stood up for American companies and their disputes over. They loved him. Is it based on data that we've seen so far in his first 80 days? Unemployment? No, actually, the job report came 100,000 jobs more than the government itself had predicted in March. Well, maybe it's inflation. It's got to be inflation. The Fed. No, the inflation rate as it annualized in March fell to about 2.6. It was 2.6 for the year. Well, maybe it's based on other things he's done that are chaotic. No, there were 10,000 people crossing the border. He said he was going to stop it. Biden said you had to have comprehensive immigration reform or it was impossible. There's zero. It's almost statistically insignificant. There's nobody crossing. He did that in 80 days. Well, maybe abroad, Donald Trump, he's as reckless with the trade as he was abroad. No. The Red Sea, for the first time in 4 years, is navigable. The Houthis are emasculated. They're descending to the status of Hezbollah.
So this is not about tariffs necessarily. This is just about the things that Donald Trump has been working on and you might say accomplished while he's in office.
Hezbollah and Hamas. The octopus itself in Tehran is terrified. They're sending back channel messages to Trump to negotiate so they don't lose their nuclear plant. In other words, it's pretty stable. But how about Ukraine? No, Donald Trump is not doing what Joe Biden said. We're going to go as long as it takes. He's trying to find a ceasefire. We are closer now to stopping this 1.5 dead, wounded, missing, killed Stalingrad than we've been in 3 years. So if it's not based on data points, and it's not based on what you could infer from his first term, and it's not based on his agenda in other areas or the world scene, what is it based on? It's based on panic. It really is. It's based on what we saw in 1929. It's what we saw in 2008, where Wall Street goes into a fit of hysteria. Part of it is fed by left-wing street theater, media hysterics, which they feel will help their counterparts, their soul mates in Europe, so they can put pressure on Donald Trump to end. I want to finish with just two considerations. They're very important. 10% of Americans, the elite, they own somewhere between 88 and 93% of the market value in the stock.
Pay attention to this for everyone who is dismissing what's going on, claiming that Trump is just trying to help the rich.
Market. Think of that. So what we're talking about is the mass hysteria of investors, of academics, of media, of lawyers, of wealthy people, the professional classes. In contrast, 50% of Americans, 160, 170 million people, they have 1% market capitalization. Their wages only went up 35%, not doubled like the stock market did over the last two. It was a good rise. It was impressive. But if the stock market had gone up 35% instead of doubled and wages had gone up 100, then you might see them a little bit more interested. Another final consideration, Donald Trump sold this trade readjustment on reciprocity. Indeed, 70 countries are now willing to negotiate. But for this first round, he's got to keep to that. If there's a country like Israel or Australia that either has similar tariffs to our own or is running a deficit with us, and this first round, he should let them go. And if a country says, we want no tariffs and we'll match you 0 to 0, he should take it. Now, you're going to say, finally, well, Victor, they have excise taxes. They put phony security and health regulations to intentionally block American imports, and that is a tariff of sorts. They use money manipulation. I know all that. But that's for round two. Right now, at this moment in time and space, it's very important to keep people on your side. And the only way you're going to do that is reciprocity, equality, whatever they do, we do. Parity. We can work out all the hidden machinations our trading partners use under the word safety, health, tax, value add. That doesn't matter. Right now, he's got to at least say in round one, if you don't have a tariff on us, we won't have a tariff on you. And he'll get his $300 to $400 billion anyway from the countries that resist. Thank you very much. This is Victor.
Solid point there. This man has a lot of wisdom, I've noticed. He tends to keep a clear head. He doesn't pick one side or the other. He looks at things objectively. From what I've heard of him so far, I think that Victor Davis Hanson is a solid follow for anyone who's trying to pay attention to what's going on in the new economy and doesn't want to be preyed on by scare tactics, which is pretty much what you see most of the time you turn on the news. All right. In response to my question, when I get older, will I look like Victor Davis Hanson? Kirsten Mahone says, whatever you look like, keep the beard. Okay. I don't see the beard going anywhere soon. In fact, I don't know why I waited so long to grow it. I look kind of like a cue ball that someone put eyes on. But just when you have a bald head and no facial hair, it is hard to not look weird, which I think I did for many years. Mr. Bison says he's only 34. The market is rough on us humans. Real estate will do that to you. Jamie says, thanks for pointing me to the video Changing World Order. Very interesting and eye-opening for me what's happening. That's a great video if you guys want to check it out. Put out by, what's his name? I just went blank. Ray Dalio. And it made a lot of sense to me when I watched it, helped form my opinion on what's going on. And this was before the tariff things happened. And I think that Mr. Trump is probably thinking the same things as Ray Dalio in that video. So if you want to get in our president's head, I would recommend starting there. Johnny says, Trump is painting China into a corner. It might be the right move in the end, but it's going to be a bumpy ride. We'll be getting inflation and a supply chain backup. All right. If you are worried about this bumpy ride, I don't blame you, but I do have something for you. It's called Spartan League. Spartan League is a faith-based mastermind that I run myself, designed for those who want a closer relationship with God. If you've been struggling in your relationship with God, if you have doubts, if you have worries, if you have concerns, if you feel like it's always 2 steps forward and 3 steps back, send me the DM Faith on Instagram or tell me you want to hear about it, and I will let you know what we can do and what I can do to help you. And then Mr. Michael and Haiti said, he just made my point, BlackRock, but he didn't say what the point was. All right, last video for tonight, and then I'll be back with you guys tomorrow, is Monsieur Trump himself.
Are you concerned of escalation beyond the trade war with China?
No, I'm not concerned. I think President Xi is a very smart guy, and I think we'll end up making a very good deal for both. But, you know, we've been treated so badly for so many years. Again, we allowed that to happen. We've been treated so badly for so many years. But no, I don't expect that. I think President Xi is one of the very smart people of the world, and I don't think he'd allow that to happen. And we're very powerful. This country is very powerful. Let me tell you, it's far more powerful than people understand. We have weaponry that nobody has any idea what it is, and it is the most powerful weapons in the world that we have. More powerful than anybody, not even close. So nobody's going to do that. But I think that if that's what you're referring to, maybe it's not. But just in terms of basic escalation, which is what you said, no, I think that President Xi is a man who knows exactly what has to be done. He's a very smart man. He loves his country. I know that for a fact. I know him very well. And I think he's going to want to get to a deal. I think that's going to happen. Yes.
You have to increase tariffs on China even more before they come to the table or give you a phone
I
call?
can't imagine it. No, I can't imagine it. I don't think I'll have to do it. I don't think we'll have to do it more. We calculated it very carefully. By the way, when you hear 100, a lot of people charge much more than that. Canada charges much more than that to our farmers, our dairy farmers. Many, many people charge much more than 100 or 125 in this case. But I don't, it's still a significant number. I don't see that.
All right, there you have it. Good little interaction there to talk about. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. YouTube just started playing on its own. Let me know in the comments. Are you feeling a little more encouraged seeing what's going on? Are you more scared than you were in the beginning? Are you more confused because of all these big words getting thrown around? Or are you starting to let it sink in that the future is going to learn different than the present? That might be okay. We appreciate you here at the David Greene Show. Thank you for watching. Thank you for following. If you've not already done so, please subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure you subscribe on Apple or Spotify. These lives only air on YouTube, but I have 3 real estate shows that come out in your podcast apps every single week: Mortgage Monday, Real Talk Realtor, and the David Greene Show, which is for real estate investors. Also, if you haven't already done so, please consider picking up a copy of my new book, Better Than Cash Flow. Better Than Cash Flow is about the 10 ways that you make money in real estate, combining a whole bunch of different strategies into every single deal to help you turn base hits into home runs. Probably the most detailed book I've written since Burr. So go ahead, go pick up your copy, and then leave me a review and tag me on Instagram. Let me know what you think. Also, if you'd like to get news updates that you don't want to have to watch a 45-minute video for, I got you there too. Head over to realtalkrealestate.com/text-letter. You can sign up for Behind the Shine, my weekly text letter that has relevant news articles, updates, mortgage interest rates, and more. Love you guys. I will see you next time.